the Her Hoop Stats podcast. I am Christy Winter Scott, joined by my girl, Helen Williams. Helen, oh my goodness, we are in the thick of it in the WNBA playoffs right now, my friend. And there were two great games last night. And let's preface everything by saying this is prior to the games on Thursday night. So we're just dissecting the Wednesday night games here and maybe prognosticating the Thursday evening games towards the end of the podcast. So let's just dissect what we saw last night, which is Wednesday night, in the games, because boy, I tell you what, if grit wasn't on display, I don't know what was.
Listen, both those games were unbelievable. When you're down, desperation breeds urgency. And you could see the urgency for the Golden State Valkyries. You could see the urgency for Phoenix, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, a lot of fun. Well, let me just say this: for a millisecond there, the New York game was a lot of fun to watch, and then it was like, but the Valkyries game was just unbelievable, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, let's start with that New York game because first of all, they were in New York. And what do you think went wrong for the Liberty at home there? I know they weren't shooting the ball particularly well, but what do you think went into that in terms of the disruption on the defensive side?
Well, you and I both believe defense wins championships.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
just think that New York got punched in the mouth, and the Phoenix, they took advantage of playing as hard as they could,
Mhm.
physical as the officials would allow. And
Yeah.
I don't think that New York adjusted to that, partly because um, I just think they were, I don't want to say shocked, but
Okay.
I just don't think they responded well to the physicality. And then also, Brianna Stewart was hurt, and New York, I will say this, will never give you any of this as an excuse, but this is
No,
just as an observer. Um, when you play for a championship or just defense in general, your job is to not let the offense go where they want to go. And I thought that Phoenix did a tremendous job of that because you've played. I don't know how many times you played during a year, right? So everybody knows everything. It's just really a matter who executes better, and I just thought they were more physical. I think New York this whole year has not been able to find a rhythm for a variety of reasons. Obviously, for the injuries, and then you get even though Emma Meeseman was a great addition, I just think they've had a problem the whole season of
right,
finding some sort of rhythm. And again, Phoenix, they didn't want to go home,
right.
so desperation breeds urgency, and you saw that last night.
How about that? How about that? And pressure, it's a privilege, and we know that. Okay. So now game three has been forced by Phoenix because of the urgency that you were just discussing. What was it about the urgency that produced so well on both sides for them? Because yes, you have to get the defensive stops, but on offense, I mean, they were firing those triples and they were falling. What was it about how they were able to get those triples to fall in particular, and how they were able to pierce the paint as well?
Yeah, I just think they created some space, just from their defense. They were able to get out on the break,
Right.
and their spacing was really good. Their spacing was good, and they moved the ball well, and they caught New York rotating late, or out of place. And I think it was just part of that again with the physicality. And I'm gonna say New York looked a little tired to me.
Mm.
Just from just getting beat on. I really think that was part of it, but I thought they executed really well on offense, especially with the spacing.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you have Alyssa Thomas who's leading the WNBA in assist numbers, right? And I remember when Alyssa Thomas was at Maryland. Sorry, I had to throw it in there. When she was
I'm gonna get my Deke thing in here later, but go ahead, go ahead.
okay, I got my okay. No, but Thomas was a senior at Maryland in particular, and everyone was kind of prognosticating where she would fall or fit in the WNBA. And And there was a huge question mark at that time, right? Because of the 3-point line and how the analytics were kind of skewed to being able to have that in your arsenal in terms of your skill set. Now, Alyssa Thomas, a staunch defender. We know the attack mode mentality that she has when she gets downhill. Like, forget about it. Straight line drive.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
That's a wrecking ball in human form. But with her ability to get downhill like that and attract so much attention, to shrink the defense down, not only her primary defender attacks that
Yep.
drive that she's making, but the secondary and third line of defense that also gets adjusted to where she's going to the cup with the ball. So now she can spray it out, right? So with her ability to do that, she has become not only the leader in assists this year and 300 assists in 3 consecutive seasons for Alyssa Thomas, but she's able to find her sweet spots for the team by getting into the painted area. If she's not finishing, she's spraying that thing out for threes. And you were talking about the spacing. I mean, it's basically when you're looking at a 4 out, 1 in, usually you're thinking the post player is the one that's inside. They have
Right.
4 players who are spread out. And if you count Alyssa Thomas before she gets downhill into the slot area, they have, in essence, a 5 out situation. But the 1 in, when they're in the 4 out, 1 in, it's Alyssa Thomas that's in. And everyone else is out. And they have so many threats from the triple area.
See, here's what people don't think. Well, 2 things. Number 1, she is so smart. You're talking about the primary, secondary, tertiary defenders. She's like 3 passes ahead because she knows what they want to do. But everybody goes, well, they know she's not going to shoot the 3-pointer, but she's so big and wide that when she hands off or she sets a screen for somebody, they have a hard time getting around it, or it's just too much. They're not trying to get hit by her. And so her defender might be playing in the lane,
right?
But the person who she's handing the ball off to, her defender is screened off. So you're going to get wide open 3-point shots because no one's going to play like right up there. No. I am truly surprised why people don't trap Alyssa Thomas. I haven't really seen it.
No,
but you got to get the ball out of her hands.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. And, a couple of times against New York, the help came, but it was too late. Like, she's already a step or 2 away from the cup. And I'm like, I just remember, and I love Natasha Cloud, and she knows this. So that's my dog. And I love her a lot.
My favorite player.
Hey, I love her. But she did get bumped off because the rotation, as you said, was delayed. And it was a beat or 2 or a beat and a half. Too late to get in her space to be disruptive to her power and her drive ability to the rim. So, and Cloud is strong. Let's not front. Like, let's not, sleep on the fact that Natasha Cloud is pretty sturdy in terms of her body strength. But she bounced right off of AT that one time. I was like, good Lord. Like, oh my God.
Everybody bounces off of AT.
Everybody bounces off. Everybody does. Boy, that's another person I'm glad I didn't ever have to play against, because you know how my body was built. I can't. No, I would have been like a bunch of toothpicks on the floor. But for me, like you said, it can't be a delayed reaction if you're going to blitz or try to run a body at her, a run jump, on those dribble handoffs, because they're playing a drop coverage. The low man in that, like, that's what she's attacking. She's attacking the low man if you're going to drop coverage on her drives, right? So I think it's very intriguing to me on what the adjustments will be for Game 3. And when you're thinking about that, what do you feel? If you're Sandy Brondello, right, what adjustments would you want to see for your team in terms of that defensive coverage on Alyssa Thomas, outside of maybe the pickup point being earlier, that point of attack defensively, maybe picking her up early? But I mean, even with that, like, she's powerful and speedy and explosive. So I don't know if you can blitz her as soon as she crosses half, because she's on the, like, her first 2 steps are ridiculous. So I don't know what do you think Sandy Brondello would do?
Well, 2 things is, the first thing is get Jonquel Jones going so that Phoenix has to eventually bring in Kalani Brown. Like, okay. That'll be one less 3-point shooter, right? They got her going a little bit, but get her going. And then use your length. I mean, Phoebich and they're all 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
Find a way to get the ball out of her hands and let somebody else, make those decisions because she makes such good decisions. Because again, she's 3, 4 passes ahead in her
Yeah.
mind of what's going to happen. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And I love the chess match that Game 3 elimination games are, especially on the defensive side. And I know Brianna Stewart. I know she's not 100% healthy. I mean, I had an MCL sprain in college. It was pretty much put some stem on it, get some ice, and you just go back out
That was
there.
back in the day. No blood, no dirt. Just go play.
But that's why I'm walking in Trader Joe's right now, and it just gives out, and I'm like, yep, it checked out. But that's how it went. But for Stewie to get out there just hours, days, like 3 days, I guess, after disrupting her MCL ligament there. She said that the medical people there with New York said that she was safe in terms of the structural damage there, and she said she wanted to go. Now, we've seen that not be a great decision for other pro athletes, and there's a litany of those that didn't come out on the other side of that with their health intact. But what do you see moving forward, for Stewie with that? And I appreciate, trust me, I just told you I went back out there and played. So I'm not begrudging her decision that. And even if I did, that's not where I am with that. I am not begrudging her decision to play. But I am concerned, right? Because, like you said, you want to have all of your chess pieces in the box ready to go, right? And you want everyone to be as healthy as you can at this juncture of the season. I mean, it's been a gauntlet physically and mentally, day after day, with practices and so forth this late in the season, obviously. But what do you think with that Brianna Stewart situation, if there's going to be a minutes restriction, and if there is, who picks up those extra minutes that Stewie will possibly give up?
Well, first of all, sometimes you have to save players from themselves because she's gonna want to play. But I think that Sandy Brondella has to trust her bench. I mean, obviously Emma Mieseman's going to get more time,
Yeah.
and then every once in a while, I can see Marie Johannes playing more, and then I mean I don't think she has used at the end of the game. She had Sabali in there, and she had Harrison in there as well. So I would expect some combination of those two, as well. And then just when you play Stewie, it's not the offense that I'm worried about. It's just the movement on defense. The lateral movement on defense and the ability to get off the floor for rebounds, those are things where, and if I'm Phoenix, I'm going right at her. I'm going right at her. So if that's the case, it's going to happen. Your help defense has to be good. They're all, like I said, fairly big and long limbs. You can switch more with those guys. You have to make sure that you don't have mismatches with Alyssa Thomas being down low on a shorty. But yeah,
Right.
those are just some of the things that you have to. And then sprinkle a little zone in there. Don't be afraid to throw that in there so you can protect her as well. I mean, I saw them play zone maybe 3 or 4 times the whole season, but you could have that in your back pocket.
Yeah. I mean, especially, and you know this too, because of coaching, right? And playing, obviously. But when you're in a zone and those arms are stretched out, I mean, that really absorbs a
I mean,
lot.
7'1" wingspan.
7'1" wingspan. I mean, it just absorbs a lot of the space visually, right, for Phoenix, and maybe it will thwart some straight line drives to the painted area, especially for Alyssa Thomas if she sees all those turnstiles in the way, right?
Right.
Um, I think it's going to be very intriguing, and I know, like what you said, for Phoenix to be kind of hunting out those kinds of matchups where Stewie is involved in pick and roll player action. But I saw a lot of that being done by Phoenix on Sabrina Ionescu, right? They were pinpointing her in a lot of actions, and that's not new, right? And no
Right.
Sab, I love Sab. No, let's not. This is not a shade moment, right? This is truth telling, right? And the basics and the fundamentals that were on display. And for me, what I saw, and tell me what you saw too on that, they were hunting out Sabrina Ionescu on those two-player actions, right? Trying to get her in those dribble handoff situations where she would get caught up, where she could find herself a half beat slow, right? And that's all Alyssa Thomas needs. And that's all Phoenix as a whole. That's all they need. And if you're going to hug that lane line, right? I saw Izzy Harris, it got stuck a couple times over helping to the lane line. And then
Yep.
Bond cash from three. So it's like you cannot sink in to take the paint away when you have the potency from the 3-point line on the outside with DB.
No, I totally agree with you, and here's where the communication is really important in terms of when those, when those screens are coming, and you just and this is so much easier said than done. I used to tell my players this all the time. You got to make yourself skinny, and you got to get over the top.
Yep.
Right, or you give your teammates space to get through, and make sure that if you play off a little bit, you give her some space to get through. She's still got to cut the angle off, because when they're coming off that screen, they're going shoulder to shoulder, and they're going straight downhill. And if you don't cut that angle off, then you have problems. So that's a piece they have to solve. Like, you're going to switch, or you're going to blitz and trap, where your rotation is going to come from, and a lot of it depends on who's in the game. The problem with Phoenix for New York is that everybody can shoot, right? So who are you playing off of? A little bit more than you normally would. Who is that? Is that McConney? Who is that for Phoenix? Because just about everybody can shoot threes. So again, if you can get it to the point where Phoenix has to adjust to you, and you have that inside game, because there's where the advantage is for New York.
Right.
But you have to stop their 3-point shooting, and then so for me, if you end up going to that zone, it's going to be like a matchup. It can't just be the regulars. Like, you got to get out,
Yes.
but it'll be interesting to see.
Mhm. And I know, sometimes in the zone, people think, well, you had to pack it in. I think it's got to be a wide zone, right?
It's got to be a wide zone, and I mean, it's really basically a man, but
Yeah.
you got to at least give them some pause for shooting those 3-pointers, right? I
Yeah.
mean, just at least contest those. But Phoenix, they were out of their mind. They were hitting contested shots anyway. But still, and you've got to be physical with them. I didn't think New York was physical with Phoenix at all.
Yeah, I think that's. I was listening to the press conference last night, and I think that was a consensus, right? I think all the players and the coaches, I think all of them concurred with that, right? I think they understood that they, like you said, they got punched in the mouth proverbially, right? And at the beginning of the game, I think they got outworked on the glass as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the physicality and the bonus that Phoenix had, not just with their defensive prowess, but also with their ability to get to the boards, right? And to outwork this huge New York team
Yeah.
on boards. And I think that is going to be something I'm going to circle, right? Just because we just talked about it. But the glass work. And I think the second and third chance opportunities that New York was not afforded, right, in that game, I think they need to get at least 10 points off of the second chance opportunities on the glass, right? And they need to preserve their possessions and make sure that Phoenix isn't all on the run, because that's when they're at their best as well, when they're in the open court. But I think, if they can do their work on the glass and do their due diligence on those kinds of possessions and double up their own misses, if they're not making shots again, right? They didn't make their shots, and we know that. But if that happens again, you got to at least get a second or third crack at it with your attention to detail on the boards. And you got to be ravenous to it. That cannot be something that you're reminded of during the game. That's got to be something that you come to the game with in your bag, with your shoes and all the other things, right? You better come with your workhorse mentality to get the glass work done, because that's going to save them. If it's a close game, which I think it will be, but if it's a close game, then you got to get on the glass and win the possession war there.
Yeah, and you have the height advantage, right? And so send 4 to the boards, and I think part of the problem too with New York, and I've said this before, is one of the disadvantages of their height is that people can get past them off the dribble,
Right.
and force them to have to do all kinds of rotation, and then they can spray it out to whomever's out there to shoot. So your point is well taken. Get to the offensive glass, give yourself more opportunities to score. Then also you're able to set up your defense when you score. You're not constantly in fast defensive transition mode where they can come down and post you up at the block and have to make a business decision when when Alyssa Thomas is dribbling like you just so your point is well taken there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be people were talking about heat check. It's going to be a heart check, right? When it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
game
It's a
three,
heavyweight fight.
say it again.
It's a heavyweight fight. I mean, this is it.
This is it. This is it. I mean, it's gonna be a test of fortitude for sure. But it's not just the heat check of it all, like who's gonna be hot. It's gonna be a heart check on who's gonna stop somebody, who's gonna win on the glass. Those possessions. I'm just telling you that that's what's gonna be discussed in both locker rooms. Like and it's so. I hate to say it, but who wants it more is what it's gonna
It's
be.
true.
And it's not going to be, at the beginning of the game to say, well, who wants it more? Because both teams are going to be like, me, I want it more, like whatever. Okay, show me who wants it more. So it's got to be something on display. I don't want to hear verbiage about it. I don't want to talk about it. I will put that on the table. Like it's going to be a war of your will in this game three. And that's going to be, and don't even raise your hand to say that you're all in with that and you're locked into that notion. Show me what you got on the court, period. If you want to win, you got to prove it, right? And it's got to be a commitment to grit. It's got to be a commitment to the game plan. And for New York, the adjustments on the defensive side.
Well, and also get to the free throw line.
That part.
Like get some easy looks at the basket. And the only way you do that is by being aggressive and trying to get downhill and force the officials to call those fouls if you're aggressive, driving to the basket. I don't think they got to the line enough last night.
No, I agree with that. I think it's going to be a massive game three, just like this whole entire playoffs has been so far. But yeah, if there's anything else about this matchup that I love is the fact that there are so many bets on both teams.
Yeah.
Been deep into the playoffs, if not won championships before. So that in and of itself is intriguing because they understand the assignment of wanting it more. But now it's going to be a head-to-head battle, and I can't wait for it. So that's something definitely to circle. That game three, we're going to check that out in the next couple of days here. And I know, with the Valkyries, man, I'm going to tell you what.
Man, what a game!
Helen, what did you like most about that game? It doesn't have to be aspect of the game, but just what did you like most about that matchup?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I love Xanda Lucini. They better protect her. I mean, she is so freaking smooth. Love her game. But what I love was that Minnesota didn't panic, right? They were down by, what was it, 13 or 14, and they were just very businesslike this whole time. Very businesslike. Obviously the experience, came in terms of we've been here before, and they, I think, what was the note I had? They lost their last 4 clinching playoff games on the road. And so this is a really important game for them, obviously, to win so they could get rest and go back home. But they were very businesslike. Mm-hmm. That was my favorite part, right? Everybody had counted out the Valkyries, obviously, because they're like, it's Minnesota. Of course they're going to win. But, the Valkyries have been like that the whole year. And Minnesota had to come to play at crucial times. They made crucial plays at the right time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Natalie Nakase, I mean, Coach of the Year this year in the WNBA, with the WNBA vote just coming out yesterday as well. Excuse me. And when you have someone who has her basketball acumen, I mean, 10 years with the Clippers and then her time with years under Becky Hammond, and then now breaking free as a head coach here, and just, I mean, serving up accountability, serving up execution. Veronica Burton was unlocked in terms of her ability to be most improved player this year. And when you see something like that happen in front of 18,000 fans on a regular basis, they sold out every single home game.
Led the league in attendance, yeah.
The love is real, right? But when you see what Natalie Nakase was able to do, and not just being awarded Coach of the Year this year because they were the first expansion team ever in the history of the WNBA to make it to the playoffs. Let's put that out there as well and add that into the mix of things that were very successful for the Valkyries there. What was it about how they were able to put all the pieces together, even without Kayla Thornton, who missed pretty much half the season with that knee injury right around the All Star break there. But even with that absence, they were able to just be calculated with how they were able to be intentional and how they were able to disrupt opponents on the defensive side and staying together as a unit. So it wasn't necessarily, I mean, they have great players, but it wasn't just one player, right? That you can call, well, it's because of so and so, right? It wasn't it like more of like a collective, unified effort by the Golden State Valkyries because Natalie Nakase knew how to put the pieces together, even when she was missing pieces with injuries this year.
You used a very important word, intentional, and I'm gonna broaden this out a little bit, and I'm gonna compare and contrast the Valkyries with the Chicago Sky. Like, this all started with the organization. They were a case study in a startup, right? They were very intentional from the beginning for every single aspect
Mm-hmm.
that you needed to have. They had a philosophy, they had intention, they had people questioning who they picked up in the draft. They had a philosophy there. The general manager, they were intentional about the type of coach they wanted. They were
Mm-hmm.
intentional about the type of players that they would take. You look at a player like Monique Billings, she's gonna get paid
Yes, she is.
as an unrestricted free agent this year because that you talk about unlocking a player.
Yeah.
Um, so you have that, and then you look at a team like Chicago Sky
Yeah.
that's just, all I'm going to say is yeah, they have issues, but I'm looking at the bigger picture for Golden State and how they just rolled this whole thing out from the beginning, and that's how you're able to have the type of performance that you've seen from them all year because they picked the right people to do the right jobs.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, middle of the season or even just a little bit after the All Star break, I think we were talking about the Valkyries. And I saw somewhere, I read somewhere, so I read a lot of things. But I saw somewhere someone said, they were a group of appetizers, right? And there was no real prime rib you cut into. But
Yeah.
now, yes, there was a prime rib because it was the entire team was the prime rib. So, period, in the end on that. But I mean, the fans, they stood up and applauded and gave them their flowers, their respect because of the joy that they brought, right? And that's what sports does. Team sports does that. I mean, sports in general, yes, but team sports in particular bring that hope to people. And I think there was just such a level of high appreciation and respect when that buzzer went off. Zangelisini was, she missed that shot and she was in tears and upset, but everybody was lifting her up. She was leaning on her team at that time. And I know that was super emotional as well. But it wasn't the finality, right? Like they know they are on the precipice of something really super exciting because of how well they were able to manage in their first year of existence in the WNBA. But it wasn't like people were sad and frustrated. I think they were disappointed that they couldn't continue to see the electricity that the Valkyries brought to the court every single game this season in the WNBA.
Well, they are now a destination franchise. Like, people will want to go and play for them, and I
Yep.
think that, they obviously exceeded expectations, but people look at that and go, "They treat their players right. They've got,
Yeah.
nice facilities. They've got a great crowd." And at some point, you've gotta go farther than the first round, but they more than exceeded expectations, and, I think the fans were just disappointed that there are no more games.
That's what I'm saying. That's why they didn't leave. That's me. Cause if there's like a vibe like that in the building, I'm the last out the door because I wanna bottle that zazazoo, that good juju. I just wanna stay in one spot until, we just are forced to leave. But you just saw all the fans giving all that love and appreciation and that's something that's not lost on me because you know how tireless it is, right? I mean, the season is
Yeah.
and they gave it their all. They gave it their all. It was a 1 point game right there. God. And you're looking at a Minnesota team that returned all five of their starters from last year. They went to the finals and they were disappointed when they lost to New York, almost insane, like in a one possession game, right? So they've been there, done that in situations like that, and that's why their experience really showed and their continuity and their ability to just bear down and, like you said, stay composed. And when they were down 17, it was bananas to me. It was a 17-point lead for the Valkyries, but that wisdom speaks loud in moments like that. And for the Lynx, man, Cheryl Reed really understands the assignment, and that's not a surprise. And I'm not,
Right.
large, like we understand that. But in a situation like that, where they were in a hostile environment with 18,000 plus people screaming right around them, Cheryl Reed was like, just keep getting stopped. And she was just so poised and composed. And I tried as a coach to be like that, but in my nerves,
Me too. It didn't work.
no, man, the vein popping out, and I'm trying to say, just go get it, like we gotta go. But she was never like that, because she knew that she had those experienced players around her that had that motor already. So sometimes it's who you're coaching and not how you're coaching necessarily, because if that's a young team, maybe you have to drive it out of them. But Cheryl Reeve didn't have to drive that kind of emotion and focus and intentionality to compete to win, right? And it's not we're not going to play not to lose. We're going to continue to play to win, and you saw that happen, especially in the fourth quarter. Courtney Williams, I think she scores over 40% of her offensive production in that mid-range area to lead
On the
every.
right side, right up on that right side. She is yeah, and then just McBuckets, Kayla McBuckets,
Yeah,
like she got them going in the fourth quarter.
she did.
And then everybody else just sort of followed around. And then,
Yeah,
people don't talk. Bridget Carlson scored like double figures, right?
right.
Jessica Shepard had rebounds, and Natisha Heidemann just did her thing. And so it was definitely a team effort.
Yeah,
And if you look at Cheryl Reeve, like there were times where she didn't bother to call timeout because she's like, the template's there. Just do what you do. We have our structure, and you just work from there." And they are a highly intelligent basketball team, have very high basketball IQ.
yeah,
So yeah, they knew what they needed to do, and they went and they did it. It's
yeah.
really that simple.
No, absolutely. And Nafisa Collier, I mean, she said as much, right, in the post game interview, and she was just saying, we just stayed locked in. We just kept chopping, and when you chop, it doesn't have to be big pieces coming off. It just has to be little, short, methodical pieces. And they continued. They cut it to 10, and I was like, oh snap, here we go. I said 5-4 on the social medias because I was like, see, hit a shot. I was like, ooh, see 5-4 because she's coming for you, right? She understands that the ball needed to go through her. What did you see on the offensive side for Minnesota that during that stretch, especially in that fourth quarter? What did you see during that time on the offensive side for Minnesota? They were able to gain that kind of traction and that effectiveness and efficiency over there.
I thought they were aggressive going to the basket. I thought they created some opportunities from their defense that made it easier to made help them get some easier baskets.
Right.
Their spacing is always good, right? But it's the timing and the pace of their offense that I think sets him apart from other teams. So
Right.
that was a big part of it. And then Jay just, they gave themselves some second chance opportunities. And for them it was just patience,
Right.
right? We somebody's gonna get something. We just have to be patient within the time clock. Everybody touches the basketball. So that was a big part of it, I think, just being
Yeah.
aggressive, especially McBride at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
That part. Yeah.
Like
No
her floaters and
doubt.
layups, and I'm like, look at you, just pretty, just pretty.
Yeah. And, I think she had gotten hit in the face and not, I mean, in a basketball play mode, right? She was in a scrum down there, nose or something like that. And then was like trying to collect her chiclets and get her mind right. And it came down the other side and took it to the cup from it was the left baseline. And she drove right down there past the dunker spot, past her primary defender, nobody there to help. and she got right to the rack. And I was like, ooh. And it's little plays like that. And I think that's what Nafisa Collier was talking about. Like, it doesn't have to be a home run every
Right.
time offensive end. Like, what can we do? Can we be methodically disciplined on the offensive side? And I think that's what the big difference was, especially down that stretch for Minnesota to take control in the fourth quarter and eventually come over the top of it with that dub in the check. So they definitely needed that. So now they have a little bit of rest, right? Because
Right.
they
Right.
2-0 over the Valkyries. But moving forward, we got a couple of games later on tonight, Helen, that are percolated. But cut the oven on, preheat the oven. Yes, really good games yet again, right? What do you foresee in tonight's matchups here on Thursday?
Well, I will say that Atlanta also got punched in the mouth, and they didn't handle it very well. They got so frustrated with the officiating or lack thereof, according to them,
Hmm.
that it just took them mentally out of it.
Right.
And they were missing shots, and I expect Alicia Gray to go off tonight and get to that left side and do her thing, and nobody's going to be able to stop her. And I think their spacing is going to be better as well. But it starts with the defense. I mean, he allowed my pet peeve points in the paint.
Yeah.
Um, but I expect them to do a much better job and to be, more composed. That was the big issue.
Yeah.
Again, desperation breeds urgency, and Indiana didn't want to go home, and they had their home crowd, and people stepped up, and obviously Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, they're who they are. So I expect it to be I don't expect it to be like a huge gap, but I
Right.
expect Atlanta to come out aggressive from the tip.
Yeah, they have to, Helen. You're looking at this Indiana team, right? And I know we've talked about it and dissected their season and the injuries and all of the things. Caitlin Clark only playing 13 games this season, all before the All-Star break, too. So, they're missing, in essence, 5 players that could be starting, right? Or they could be, mixed in the rotation as starters for Steph White and the Indiana Fever. And then, they have DB leave the roster to go to Phoenix midstream too. So that's another starter, right?
Right.
That makes two. So in essence, 6 starters that are down for the season. And then we're talking about the grit and the will and the fire that it takes and the ferociousness of all of that in the postseason right now. And to see them do what they did in Indiana and to see the emotion by Steph White, I don't know who hit the three. Somebody hit a three and they showed Steph White and she was like, "Whoa, I'm like, oh," like, yeah, Steph. It's just fun to see. When you are just trying to will all of that out of your team as a coach, and then to see them succeed at it. It's far reaching. It's not just about basketball. It's about their interworkings, right? And their inner workings, excuse me, their inner workings in terms of how they are building their character through the adversity. So I think that's the story for Indiana, that they're able to, in spite of the adverse situations, right, with the injuries and such, they're still in the playoffs. And not only that, they still cracked the code and split the series. And now it's going to go back to Atlanta. And can they bottle what they did up is the question I'm going to ask you and take it to the ATL.
I think
What?
they can, but I
Out.
still
Did you dish out or you
I,
are you
st- I,
oh,
st- I still think Atlanta has more. I mean, when you look at Indiana, there was a photo of like 5 starters that are just sitting behind the bench, 5 potential starters, and I just think
no.
I don't know that they can bottle that again on the
Okay.
road. Maybe I could be wrong. They could make me eat my words, but I think they'll play them tough. But I do think Atlanta, will win the series.
Mhm.
But you have to give them, Indiana their credit because they're all about no excuses. We don't care, who's hurt. People just have to step up. But I think Atlanta's defensive effort will allow them to win the game tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge for sure. And the spacing for Atlanta has to be on point on the offensive side. They just have to stick with what they've done all season really well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
lost the rope on that in Indianapolis in that last game. So definitely Carl Smesco, Steph White, two of my buds, man. It's hard for me. I just watch it for the basketball. I can't cheer for you, Steve, because those are my. But I love that they're in this point of the season, and made the best team win on tonight. So that'll be very interesting and intriguing. And something else that's intriguing before we get off of here because we're getting ready to go. The Las Vegas Aces, right? I mean, they had their 17-game win streak snapped by Seattle. Seattle came with all the smoke, right? Sky did, boy, she was doing her thing. I'll tell you what, Sky Diggins, man, I'll tell you, she went out there and took that game by the horns and said, "And what? Like what? Like what's next? Like next?" And it's just her attitude, and not in a snarky way, but in a
Right.
confident,
She's competitive. She's very competitive.
competitive. And I
Yeah.
love about her, man. Like she's just so feisty with it, and she knows what needs to be done. You can see her talking to her teammates, organizing things. But then she can cash out and get her own. And that's what I thought was most impressive. Her ability to knock down not only the three, but to get to the cup and get to the midi and really attack and put pressure on the defense as well.
She reminds me of, you want her to be your partner in spades, but you're also afraid to be her partner in spades because you don't know if you're going to come as hard as she comes in the game, smacking a card on the table. But yeah, I mean, she's the heartbeat of that team, and Vegas. I just feel like they need to have a sense of urgency to
Yeah.
perform, right? They have these lapses, and good for them to you don't want to ever lose, but um, you know, back down to earth a little bit. We had some lapses, and you can't do that if you want to get to the championship. And now, first people were like, "Oh, they're terrible. They're never going to make the playoffs." Now everybody's on the bandwagon. You and I were like there the whole time, like, just they're gonna make it. Give it a beat. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it just seems like they need that kind of urgency where their backs are against the wall for them to perform.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I mean, you saw Asia Wilson being, for the first time ever, a co-defensive player of the year with
What
Smith.
is that? Like,
I mean, they did it with Jason.
pick somebody. Pick somebody.
Hey, hey, it was 29-29. They both had
I
29.
know. I saw the votes.
Hey, man. They did it with Jason Kidd and Grant Hill back in the day. They got co-rookie of the year that year. I didn't see the numbers on those votes, or maybe if I did, I've forgotten now since back in the day. But they did it then. But this is the first time in WNBA history that there's been a co-anything, right? So a co-defensive player of the year. So I think for Asia Wilson, it's her third time, right, to be defensive player of the year. Smith's first. But defensively, what is it that the Las Vegas Aces need to do tonight to get themselves into the next round of the playoffs?
Man, I think you got to pick up Seattle early and not allow them, to get past half court without harassing them, and not allow them. Again, going back to what I said at the beginning,
Yeah.
just you can't let people go where they want to go, right? And you got to push Dominic Malonga off the block. You got to be physical. Whenever Nneka Ogwumike gets the ball, and you got to make Skylar Diggins work. And that I think is going to be key, is not allowing them to get into an offensive flow, because that really bothers them in terms of how they approach a game.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, the two-player game with Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins, I mean, it's so potent and fiery and tough to stop because they have like 5 different options.
Yep.
And 5 different ways to attack you, right, in a two-player action. And Nneka Ogwumike and Sky, they were on the post-game podium, and they were talking about that. And Nneka said, this isn't like an arrogant comment, but it's like pick your poison between the two of us because you can't stop both of us, right? And now I'm like, or can you? Like, what can you do? So that challenged me to think, like, what can you do to kind of blow up that two-player comfortability between Diggins and Nneka Ogwumike?
Listen, they scored 372 points off that two-player action this year.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot, and Nneka is playing like she just started in the WNBA. I
I
mean,
love.
it's just unbelievable how well she's playing, and then, again, Skylar Diggins is so competitive.
I know.
So I'm not surprised. So you gotta blow that up somehow.
Yeah, yeah. I like the early points of attack. I like that. I like trying to, Malunga. I don't think she's getting enough of credit on the defensive end. Yes, you need to push her off her spot and all that on the offensive side because of how long and lanky she is. But on the defensive side, I mean, she's a staunch defender and very smart and calculated with her footwork and spacing and angles. I've been watching that over the last stretch of games, not just in the playoffs, but she's a 19-year-old rookie out there, and she has the primary matchup with the three-time MVP Asia Wilson, right? And a three-time defensive this year but still three-time defensive player. And Asia Wilson's on top, top, top. But she's been able to plug those gaps with discipline, and I've been very impressed with how well she's been able to defend, not just on the offensive side, which she has a tremendous upside with, but on that defensive end, man, she's a toughie.
I you know, Her first game, she looked like a deer in the headlights on both ends of the floor, just, typical rookie. But I think for her, like, you have to involve her in two-player game and get her away from the basket so that she has to I haven't seen anybody do that to her on a consistent basis where she has to make some decisions,
Yeah.
and they're all gonna be wrong because she doesn't play out there, very much, and Asia is so versatile that, she can operate, she can shoot that 3, she can hit the mid-range, she can drive and then pull up right before the help comes over. She can get all the way to the basket. So I think if you don't want Dominic in, that's what you do with post players. You bring them out, and
Yeah.
she has to come out because Asia can shoot those threes and involve her, in that. And then you've got the point guard who has eyes in the back of her head. She's going to deliver the ball where it needs to be delivered.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, she's just a magician, and I think I thought about that too during the game. Like, who are the best passers in the WNBA in the history? And I know Tisha Pinachero. I mean, she was definitely a magician with the basketball, but man, I put Gray right up there with her because I'm like,
Point guard.
where did you see? Like, I'm watching everything. I'm thinking that I'm watching everything, and she zaps a dart to the weak side. I'm like, Lord Jesus! Like, where did you see that? Like, when did you know that was going to be a possibility? And then you could
Yep. That's
oh,
another player who's 2, 3 passes ahead.
yeah, no doubt, chess. That's chess for sure. But yeah, it's magical for me, and I'd like to maybe put a poll out there. We got to ask BMAC maybe to make a poll like who are the best playmakers in the history of the league? Because wow, I mean Sue Bird, of course, too, but I don't know, like those fanciful ones are. They take me out, have me yelling at the TV, throwing stuff at the TV, like
Highlights.
in it, like
Highlights.
Chelsea with tag on movie time. Yeah, anyway, but it's just fun and it's a joy. And I know it's gonna be a great set of games again tonight on this fine Thursday. And Helen, anything you wanna leave the people with, like what you're doing or anything like that before we deuce out and check back in with these games as the WNBA playoffs progress?
Yep, I gotta give De'Erica Hamby her props. Top 10 in points per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, and field goal percentage. The only person in that this year. So go Deeks. I got to do that. But yeah, just I'll be watching these games, and you know how it is. Getting ready to do having one or two more free weekends, and then it'll be on to the college game.
I know schedules are popping out for the college level, and that's
Can't
gonna be
wait.
I can't wait either. Oh my gosh, that's going to be mesmerizing to say the least, and a new crop of WNBA prospects in action soon as the fall and winter months come around. But the WNBA playoffs are right now, baby. I know you guys are watching them, and make sure you guys stick and stay right here, stay locked in on the Her Hoop Stats network here of podcasts. I'm Christy Winter Scott for my girl right there, Helen Williams. Wake Forest best. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that shout out. No, I appreciate you. Always love catching up with you and chopping it up. I know we went a little long again. I tried to cut it short, but I can't do it.
Listen, sis, I love talking with you.
I love you, man. It's just a lot. I just love it so much. I can go on and on. We could stay on here for 2 more hours, and I still wouldn't run out of things.
Yeah, B-Mac's got to eat though. He's got to eat dinner. So
You got to go, baby. I'm sorry. But I love it. And I love y'all for watching. Thank you for joining us today right here on the Her Hoop Stats podcast.